So I'll share my screen. So basically, we'll go through our, SCA Global Credentials, which we have started very recently. So we are based out from Hyderabad, and we have our office in Hyderabad location. So who we are a consulting firm in Hyderabad where we have a team of, 10 employees right now and working for various global clients with overall expertise of having, the GRC experts, cybersecurity experts, and IT assurance leaders from, having experience in Big Four firms and other consulting firm in India and other countries. So myself, Mallikarjuna Reddy, have been, working with MNC companies and also worked with, European bank and also involved in 100 and plus 150 plus engagements with one of the US CPA firm for more than 3 years and thought of starting my own journey and started SCA Global very recently. It's been close to 2 months, but yeah, looking forward to build collaborations and about this information security, IT assurance, GRC, and cybersecurity for people like you, and looking forward to grow my company as well. So we are committed to ensure that we give quality services. Also, we ensure the key objective is that understanding from common frameworks, like having all together from different frameworks point of view, creating awareness for all the organizations and ensure that the companies spend enough time and efforts to enhance their security posture and improve their GRC at a overall. Right, our long-term commitment is to ensure that to create awareness. That's the reason that we continuously plan to conduct webinars going forward into all GRC products, and we also conduct some cybersecurity trainings, ISO, SOC 2, high trust, HIPAA, GDPR. We will try to cover as many webinars as possible going forward. So if we talk about our services, we do audits and assurance, risk consulting. Whereas we do internal audits, we do SOC 1, SOC 2, readiness gap assessments, then implementation and audit and attestations. So we also help the companies to implement their controls to meet various compliances. We do help in third-party risk management and ISO sourcing. Have our team working with your team collaboratively to to perform your internal audits or to help you in meeting various compliance requirements. So myself, I'm the founder and CEO, and I have a team where people having more than 22 plus 20 years and with very good certifications. All together we have like 100 plus years of experience. We have few other team members, but yeah, we are the people majorly involved in IT assurance space and GRC space. Okay, that's pretty much about SCA Global. But yeah, let's start about SOC 1, SOC 2 attestation engagements. That is the core reason. But yeah, if I talk about system and organization controls, basically I'm going to conduct maybe 3 or 4 modules. I'm planning for 3, but yeah, considering the kind of complexity and in-depth knowledge I'm planning to give, maybe I'm go for 5 modules as well. Depends upon the kind of content I'm going to give and based on the response from the audience or whoever the people attending my sessions. A few people are wanted to learn at a high level. If you want, feel that you people are really interested, maybe I'll go for 6 modules as well. So whenever I'm learning, I always see it from, learning at a levels. So this module covers the level 1, the basic introduction, understanding what is SOC, who introduced it, what are the, different services comes under SOC, or different serv different SOC reporting and all. So we'll cover one by one. Okay, so it is referred as system and organization controls. Just a second. Okay. So system and organization controls. So earlier it was referred as service organization controls, but there is a reason behind it. We'll discuss it one by one. So SOC for System and Organization Control, formerly referred as Service Organization Control, which was introduced by AICPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So SOC reports are issued to provide assurance to your third parties or user organizations based on the in-scope services, service commitments, and security commitments that you are following or complying in your organization, and giving that trust to your user organization. So now American Institute American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they introduced SOC with almost many years back. They refer it as SAS and all. Now we got this SOC is evolved. Now we refer it as system and organization controls. But earlier it was referred as service organization controls until 2017. Now, during 2017, they changed the framework a little. They changed the reporting procedure. So they renamed it as controls from service organization controls. Now, who can issue these SOC reports to service organization? We need to understand who are the participants involved here. Service organization, the company who offers services to different organizations, which is referred as service organization. The customer, the company or the organization who considers or who takes services from the service organization is referred as user organizations in SOC reporting. Now, AACPA, as per AACPA standards, only a licensed CPA, certified public accountant, can attest to SOC reports. Acronym or okay. Now, now SOC reporting, the SOC report must be referred as attestation reports. These are not, we can't refer it as in certification. I see in LinkedIn and a lot of other social medias, websites, few of the people or few of the companies, they refer it as, certification. But yeah, ensure that, we refer it as attestation, but not the certification. Okay. Now, just like financial audits, now CPA performs an independent examination and review of, suitability of controls, design of the controls and operative effectiveness of the controls to verify if the controls are implemented to meet the service commitments. Okay. Now, why did they change the name system and organization controls? Right. Earlier, it was referred as service organization controls, but it was redefined as system and organization controls. Right. But now SOC, service organization controls to system and organization controls. Now, earlier, before 2017, ACP, the kind of framework, the kind of overall reporting structure was to perform examination at an service organization level. Like they used to have controls at an service organization level, but after 2017, during 2017, they introduced system level controls where same company have multiple systems and the same company can go to multiple SOC attestations for each of their systems. For each system, now as the technology evolved, the kind of the technology landscape got widened, Now, same company, if it is giving multiple services which are not interlinked to each other, and if it is using different systems to provide the services, now they may have to go to multiple SOC reports, right? As they have multiple systems in place which are not interlinked to each other, right? So that's the reason during 2017 they introduced system level controls. From then the service organization controls renamed as system and organization controls. Now let's understand what is the evolution, where it started and where we are now in SOC. Earlier it was referred as SAS3, which is long back, almost 49 years, 50 plus years. It was referred as SAS3, then SA70. So I think SOC, it was started in 2011. Then later on, they introduced SOC for cybersecurity in 2017 and SOC for supply chain examination in 2020. Right now, so let's talk about okay. Now let's understand the purpose and the importance of SOC reports. Now, service organization reports or system and organization reports are used to provide assurance to their stakeholders or user organization about to build that trust or to prove that they are committed to meet their service commitments. And also these reports are helps for due diligence or third party risk management or to meet various compliance requirements like HIPAA, PCI-DSS, GDPR, CCPA, etc. So the key objective most of the time we use is vendor due diligence. If you wanted to onboard any new vendor, let's ask them if they have SOC 2 type 2 or SOC 1 type 2 attestation. If they go for SOC 2 type 2 attestation, right? It helps them to build some sort of confidence that the company or the service organization have implemented enough controls to meet the service commitments of their user organizations, right? So this helps in vendor due diligence, third party risk management. Also, if you wanted to meet some sort of compliance requirements like Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act or PCI-DSS, GDPR, CCCPA, then you can implement the SOC 2 controls, which helps your organizations to meet different regulatory requirements. Based on your geographical location, you can define the controls to meet the SOC criteria accordingly, at the same time addressing different regulatory requirements, right? It also helps you to see your cyber security landscape, whether you have strong controls in place to ensure that you are protected from cybersecurity threats, right? So yeah, so SOC reports help you to build that confidence to understand what is your current standard, what is your maturity level as a service organization to meet service commitments, to see whether you are meeting regulatory requirements and whether you have enough controls in place to protect from cybersecurity threats. And to see whether whether it helps, to build trust with your vendors and to your user organization, not vendors. Or if you wanted to onboard any vendors, definitely you can ask if they have any SOC reports in place so that you can review the SOC reports to build that confidence. Now, ACPS SOC suite of services. There are multiple SOC reports under SOC now, which are SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, SOC for supply chain management, SOC for cybersecurity. Right now, there is a different purpose for each of the SOC report. Now, SOC 1 it deals with internal controls over financial reporting. If you are a service organization who offers such a service which impacts financial reporting or financial statements of user organization or customer, then you the best report is you can opt for SOC 1 reporting, where the CPA performs independent review and examination of internal controls or financial reporting, which impacts financial statements or financial reporting of user organization, where they will see the design and operative effectiveness of the controls to ensure you have IC internal controls over financial reporting controls implemented, designed and implemented effectively to meet the service commitments. Right. So it deals with financial reporting. The auditor, they verifies design and operative effectiveness of the controls related to financial reporting, so that they have, the company, they have um, controls implemented so that there is no, misstatements, or there is no fraud involved in the financial reporting process. Similarly, SOC 2, this is more about, 5 trust service criteria. In SOC 2, CPA, he'll be looking at 5 trust service categories, which are security, availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy. These are referred as 5 TSCs, first 5 trust service categories, or few people refer it as 5 trust service criteria, right? So now the security, the key objective is security, but however, there are few elements: availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy, which will be tested as a part of SOC 2. But is it common for all the service organization? No. Security will be common criteria here. Security will be referred as common criteria, whereas rest of the 5, availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy, is referred as additional trust service criteria, which are tested based on the scope, which are considered in scope based on the nature of services, service commitments of the service organization. Right. So the service auditor evaluates the in-scope internal controls based on the nature of services, service commitments, and applicable trust service criteria agreed upon with the user organizations. Trust service criteria intend to provide information about service organization systems, infrastructure, software, procedures, data, and people in accordance with the description criteria. So we'll understand what is this description criteria. Now they have, in every report, we will include system description of the service organization. So which is nothing but the overall description, the people, the software, infrastructure, procedures, like overall process followed within the organization, overall applications, infrastructure, people, everything related to that system, which is defined in the system description of the SOC report in section 3, which is referred as system description of the service organization. Right? So they will include what are the in-scope trust service criteria for the in-scope systems and services, which defines the scope of the service organization. Now, what is SOC 3 report? SOC 3 is pretty much the same SOC 2 report. There won't be any different examination or additional examination performed by the CPA. It is the same SOC 2 type 2 report where they they provide the report in a different form. Now, SOC 2 report, it's a lengthy, which report which contains 4 or 5 sections. Now, which contains, the sensitive information, the details of controls, the details about the system, uh, policies, process, different technology, different controls and all. Everything will be part of, SOC 2 type 2 report or SOC 1 on SOC 2 reports. Now, if they wanted to publish or if they wanted to promote that they are SOC 2 attested or SOC 1 attested, it is difficult for them, just to say we are SOC 2 attested. Instead, they prefer to, upload some sort of, you know, proof, which is provided by a CPA to showcase that they are SOC 2 or SOC 1 attested, right? In that case, they can't publish the whole report since it contains certain confidential information. They prefer to have a report where certain confidential information or sensitive information is excluded. Such report we refer it as SOC 3 report. It contains only 2 sections. In general, SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports contains 4 to 5 sections, whereas in SOC 3 report we have only 2 sections. So we exclude 2 sections: system descriptions and test of controls and control test results. Now we exclude only these 2 sections which contains, most of the sensitive information. Right? I will show you now report structure, next few slides. Now, SOC for supply chain management. So it assesses the controls of supply chain system. If they have SOC for supply chain is centered as assessing effectiveness of control within the service organization's supply chain. It evaluates how well the organization manages and mitigates risks related to security and integrity of its supply chain processes. Right now, whatever the supply process they're having, they will be checking how the user organization can rely on their supply chain system and how well the organization implemented this from design and operative effectiveness point of to address various supply chain risks. So these are not that famous. I hardly worked on SOC for supply chain management and cyber security engagements. Now this SOC for cybersecurity engagement, where you will be saying how good the company, how the cybersecurity risk management program has been implemented within the organization. So this is more of understanding how good the organization in identifying and protecting the organization from various cybersecurity threats. Now, SOC for cybersecurity is more comprehensive and focuses specifically on the organization cybersecurity risk management program. It evaluates the design and effectiveness of controls implemented to protect against cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities, including how the organization identifies, manages, and mitigates cybersecurity risks. Now, it's understand your technology landscape, your infrastructure, different application. Now, how are you protecting your overall IT infrastructure or IT space, implementing various cybersecurity controls, right? So, as in SOC for cybersecurity, we see the design and operative effectiveness of controls implemented in the organization within the organization to ensure you have right controls in place to protect against cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities. Now, of the SOC 1 and SOC 2, again, it was classified as two different types. Understanding the maturity level of the organization, so they can either opt for type 1 or type 2. So now type 1 is generally opted whenever the company is going for SOC reporting process for the first time. Now, assume there is a company where they are planning to go for SOC attestation. Maybe they can go for type 2 directly, but if they are not sure or if they just implemented the controls, then they go for type 1 in general, right? But there is a process, there is a roadmap how they can start to start working on SOC reporting process. Initially, generally the company performs internal audit or some sort of consulting activity, which is referred as gap assessment or readiness engagement, where they will see whether the company has right controls in place, right controls designed and implemented effectively to meet the SOC criteria. Whether it is SOC 1 or SOC 2, during gap assessment, the auditor or the consultant will be looking at the design effectiveness of the controls to meet the SOC criteria or standards, right? If they met the gap, if they meet all the criteria effectively, then they can go for type 1 directly. If at all they find any deviations or if at all they find any gaps during the audit process of gap assessment or readiness engagement, they take some time, they perform remediation or whatever they do implementation for the gaps noted as a part of gap assessment, then they will go for type 1. Now, why they have to go for type 1? Why can't they directly go to type 2? Now, there is a difference in reporting process. In type 1, report is as of point in time. Now, in type 1 engagements, generally type 1 is performed for a specific point in time as of date. I'm going to, as an auditor, I'm going to perform independent review and examination for all the controls from design point of view at a specific date, which is referred as point in time. At a specific date, do you have enough controls? Do you have effective controls designed effectively to meet the SOC criteria? So we are going to just check design of the controls at a specific point in time. So look at looks at the design of the controls, not operative effectiveness. So we are just going to verify the design effectiveness of the controls are meeting the SOC criteria. Limited use, you are not providing any assurance about the operative effectiveness. Here in so type 1, we just confirm that you have right controls in place or right controls implemented to meet the SOC criteria. But you are not giving or we are not assuring you that the controls operated effectively during the audit period because this report is provided for a specific point in time. So you can't provide assurance on the operative effectiveness. Generally performed in the first year that a service organization has SOC reporting requirements, right? So this is most of the time, type 1 reports are issued during the type 1 reports are opted during the initial phase of SOC reporting process, maybe the first year, unless if there are any significant changes to the system, they won't go for type 1. Most of the time they will go for once if they are SOC 2 type 2 compliant or SOC 1 type 2 compliant, then from there on they will go to type 2 every other year. They don't have to go to type 1 again, right? Now, there are chances if there are major changes to your system. Now, if there are any major changes to the system, again, you can opt for type 1 because if you're not sure whether the new changes, whatever assume you acquired a new company, now you are not sure whether the acquired company has right controls in place, right? In that case, you either can go for gap assessment again, considering the changes, significant changes to the system. You can either go for gap assessment or type 1 to understand what are the gaps you have so that you remediate the controls or implement the right controls again to meet the SOC criteria, then you can go for type 2. So what happens if you opt for type 1 or type 2 if you don't have controls in place, right? Assume you are a company who acquired new company. Now you wanted to get the attestation at a overall, both for the acquired company and the parent company. Now, since if you as an auditor, if I find any deviations for any of the controls in the acquired company, it impacts the overall report. Now, if it impacts the overall report, the opinion will be adverse opinion. If there are a lot of failures, if we note a lot of gaps, for whatever the controls we test. So now this impact the overall opinion, which can also qualify the report or which can also give adverse opinion if we find a lot of deviations. So it is recommended if you think, based on the maturity level of the organization, if you think if the company doesn't have enough controls to meet SOC criteria, it is recommended that you go for gap assessment or readiness before you go for type 1 or type 2 engagement, right? If you are 100% sure, or if you already have some sort of certifications like ISO, high trust, or any other, some sort of internal engagements, which gives some sort of confidence that you have right controls designed and implemented to meet SOC criteria, then you can go for type 1 to understand whether you have right controls designed effectively. And once if you have type 1 report, maybe down the line in next 6 months to 12 months, you can opt for type 2 engagement, right? So during first year, most of the companies, they go for gap assessment, then type 1. Once after obtaining type 1 attestation, maybe within 6 months to 1 year, they can go for type 2 attestation. So what is the difference between type 1 and type 2? So as mentioned, in type 1, it is a point in time examination performed by independent qualified CPA, whereas in type 2, it is over a period. It's not a point in time. The auditor, based on whatever the SOA, whatever the audit period we select, maybe from 6 months to 12 months duration, the auditor will select samples across the audit period and will do independent review and examination, where which covers both design and operative effectiveness of the controls. So report covers a period of time generally not less than 6 months and not more than 12 months. But yeah, there are, as the attestation standards evolve, I have, been part of few of the engagements where we provided attestation for 13 months. And I have also been part of, the engagement where we provided SOC 2 type to attestation for 3 months. But most of the time, generally not less than 6 months and not more than 12 months. Most of the reports, it will fall under the audit period between 6 months to 12 months. Here, the focus is we will be looking at both design and operative effectiveness of the controls. So issued to provide user auditors with assurance for reducing the evaluation of controls risk. Now here, so what is the difference from assurance point of view? In type 1, since we only verify design effectiveness of the controls, we can't give assurance whether the control operated effectively. We just know the control is implemented. We are not sure whether the control is operated effectively. But in type 2, this gives some sort of confidence that the service organization, the control is designed effectively, at the same time operated effectively during the audit period, which helps the user organizations to rely on controls implemented. Right. So this can help to provide assurance about the control operative effectiveness as well. Type 2 reports are recurring and conducted annually to assess the effectiveness of the controls over a specific period. So in type 2 reports, once if you get SOC 1 type 2 attestation or SOC 2 type 2 attestation, unless if there were any significant changes, unless if there were significant changes to the system or the environment, you don't have to go to type 1 or gap assessment again. You can directly go for type 2 attestation on an annual basis. There are companies who go for type 2 attestation every 6 months. From reporting period from January to December, there are companies who go for attestation again from almost September to August. So the first they cover from January to December, and again they cover from September to August, right? 2 reports in a year. So maybe different kind of user organization, the kind of commitments they have with their user organization. Maybe if you have very big clients where they expect 2 reports, those companies can go for 2 reports in a year as well. Right? Now SOC 2 type 2 plus reports. Now we understand, in SOC 2 type 2, there are 5 trust service criteria or categories: security, availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy. Now, these are the criteria which are defined by ACPA. Now, you will test whatever the in scope categories for a specific report. You will be performing independent review and examination of those criteria. Now, what if you wanted to address a specific framework? What if you wanted to address any specific certification or compliance requirements like HIPAA, right, GDPR? Now, the ACPA, they introduce some sort of reporting process called SOC 2 Type 2 Plus reports, where you can include a specific framework and get it audited and included within the same SOC report, which is referred as SOC 2 Type 2 Plus reports. Now, SOC 2 Type 2 Plus reports are enhanced SOC 2 Type 2 reports that include additional compliance frameworks, providing a broader assessment and reducing the need for multiple audits. Now, you don't have to go to a different certification, or you don't have to get a different audit done to meet a specific compliance requirement or to meet a specific framework. Right? You can include the same framework and that can be evaluated. The additional framework can also be included in scope as to type 2 engagements, and the reporting process is referred as SOC 2 type 2 plus reports. Now, the key aspect, the most complex part of SOC 2 engagements is understanding how these trust service categories are linked to controls. Now, ASAP, so if you know how ISO works, you have 93 ISO 27001, you have 93 controls, right? You clearly know these are the 93 controls which will be tested for any of the ISO 27001 engagements, right? Based on the scope, maybe SOA, you may remove few controls from the scope, but what are the controls comes under scope. But it's not the same case with SOC 2 attestations. Now, you only know there are 5 trust service categories. Now, how these trust service categories are linked to controls. That is the key element that everyone should understand. This takes most of the time, but so we have a different session where we will be discussing the components of these 5 trust service criteria, how these are linked with criterias, then how these are linked with point of focus, how the controls are derived from the point of focus for each of the service organization. The controls will change for every other organization. The control wording will change. The in-scope controls will change. Few controls I see, there are companies where they just have 50 plus controls. They got SOC 2 type 2 attestation. There are also companies who have 200 plus controls and they also get the attestation. Now, what is the difference? How the companies are implementing their controls, how the companies are getting attested where they have only less controls, and there are companies even having high level, huge set of controls, but they are not getting SOC 2 type 2 attestation. There is a difference. That is the reason you need to understand how this chain of trust service categories, then criterias, point of focus, then controls. You need to understand how the overall flow, how these components works in 5 trust service categories. Now, for instance, I'm not going to discuss in depth of these components, but yeah, I'll just give the basic understanding. But we'll have a dedicated session on understanding what is this trust service categories or trust service criteria. Now, so it's all you need to apply your judgment to understand whether all the criterias are, you know, should be tested, or whether all the criteria must be, or whether all the criteria are applicable for a specific service organization. So you need to apply your judgment to understand the kind of risk that can impact the service organization. And you need to see whether a specific trust service criteria or a specific point of focus is applicable or not. So you need to understand. So applying the trust service criteria in actual situation requires judgment, which is supported by point of focus that represent important characteristics of the criteria and criterion. Users should consider the facts and circumstances of the service organization and its environments when applying the trust service criteria. Now we all know, there are 5 trust service criteria or categories, out of which security will be considered as common criteria, and rest of the 4 are tested based on the nature of the services and service commitments, or if they wanted to address any regulatory requirements, right? Now, so here we understand the scope and we include only trust service criteria which or categories which only applicable for a specific service organization. Similarly, now you need to understand how this criteria, how this trust service criteria is linked with point of focus, and how you need to understand whether what are the point of focus that you need to look at when you're considering scope, or when you're writing controls for a specific service organization, right? Now, point of focus, this is not a standard. Point of focus is something provided by ACP as a guidance for auditors or implementers to understand what are the areas that the auditor or the implementer can look at to see while implementing the controls or while auditing the controls. Now, this is some sort of guidance provided by ACP, but not the standard. Okay. Now, controls are something implemented by the organization to address various trust service categories with the reference of point of focus. Point of focus specifies what are the areas that you can look into when you're addressing a specific criteria, right? Implementing the right controls in place. Let's understand in detail. Now, so components, trust service categories, components. Totally, we have 5 trust service categories. So security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Right? Security is referred as common criteria. So there is series of controls are referred as CC. Now, wherever if you see any control with CC, it means that the control is related to security. Right? CC means nothing but common criteria. Now, there are 33 criteria under security, which includes 232 point of focus points. Focus point, you can refer it as point of focus or focus points. Okay, almost 232 focus points under security, addressing 33 criterias, right? Similarly, for availability, there are 3 criterias and there are 16 focus points. Similarly, for processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Now, the most complex criterias are security and privacy. Security almost have 33 criterias and privacy has 18 criteria. So they need a lot of controls implemented under security and privacy, availability, processing, integrity, and confidential. These are small criteria. Now, if you break again the security, you have criteria from CC1 to CC9, right? So under security, you have to see what are the criterias or so these are standard, these are common for all the SOC reports, all the SOC 2 reports. This the trust service categories, the criteria, these are the standards, and it is common for all the SOC 2 reports, right? Now, under security, you have criteria from CC1 to CC9, which are referred as CC1 control environment, CC2 communication and information, CC3 risk assessment, monitoring controls, control activities, logical and physical access controls, system operations, change management, and risk mitigation. Similarly, there is a sub criteria again, which comes under control environment, which starts from CC1 to CC 1.5, which includes COSO principles. Now you have COSO principles from CC1 to CC5, 17 COSO principles from CC1 to CC5, right? So now you need to understand from security, you have 9 criteria, which are from CC1 to CC9. And again, in CC1, you have 5 COSO principles that you must be referring to, right? So understand that the security have criteria from CC1 to CC9. You need to try to remember this criteria description. Now, also understand that each criteria is again, segregated into multiple COSO principles and other, areas. Now, this is for privacy. Here you can see for security from CC 1 to 9, we have the 9 criterias. And again, for availability, you have A 1.1 to 1.3, confidentiality, C 1.1 to C 1.2, processing integrity and privacy. Now, since again for privacy, you have that sub criterions from privacy 1 to privacy 8.0, which are related to all the privacy criteria. Okay. How you collect, sensitive information like personal information. How do you obtain consent, or how do you use it? How long do you retain? If you wanted to dispose, what are the different disposable procedures, right? Who are all the people? How are you protecting personal information? Who are all the users getting access? What are the, controls implemented, access management controls implemented, disclosures and notification procedures? How do you ensure that personal information is maintained completely and accurately? So in maintaining integrity and all. So a lot of controls under privacy. Now you need to understand this. From security, you have 9 criterions. Now under each criteria, again, you classified it as sub criterions or principles. Now let's just see one example how exactly this CC1 breakdown into control. How these controls are linked to these criteria or these principles, right? We know CC1, we know security. From security, you have 9 criterias. Now let's talk about one criteria under CC1, right? CC1 is control environment. Now under CC1, you have principle CC 1.1, which is referred as COSO principle 1. Now, the entity demonstrates a commitment to integrity and ethical values. This is what the COSO principle 1 says. Now, we are not sure if you ask anyone what is integrity and ethical values, everyone will be having their own definition of integrity and ethical values, right? Now, you need a broader understanding from AACPA point of view. You don't have to, their own definition defined by every other person, right? You should have some sort of guidance so that companies easily they will understand what are the areas that AACPA is referring to, right? That is the reason AACPA provided point of focus to ensure that you understand the criterion exactly what exactly they are looking for, right? So if you wanted to go through this COSO principle 1, the entity demonstrates a commitment to integrity and ethical values. So you have almost 6 point of focus or 5 point of focus where you can see what are the controls that as an service organization you can implement to meet this criteria. CC 1.1 now sets the tone at the top. Now from the board of directors, management, and all at all levels of the organization, you should have processes in place to follow integrity and ethical values across the organization, right? Maybe you have some sort of policy in place or you have some sort of standard document that is published and made available for all the employees and agreed at the time of onboarding. So which ensures that all the employees meets the or employees integrity and ethical values within the organization. Now, there is an additional point of focus saying establishes standards of conduct. Now, you should have some sort of standard document to ensure that integrity and ethical values must be employed within the organization. Now, what is the responsibility of the management to ensure all the employees follow integrity and ethical values? So they need some sort of standard. They communicate it to every employee at the time of onboarding, maybe at a periodical basis as well, right? So they ask the employees to read and attest or sign at the time or acknowledge at the time of onboarding and at an annual basis. So that the employees know what are the standards or what are the conduct they need to follow within the organization, right? there they should also define some sort of process where if there are any deviations from the code of conduct, they should address those deviations in a timely manner. So there will be some sort of process where there will be some termination process or they'll be having process where they take action if there is any deviation from the conduct standards of conduct. Now that's what evaluates adherence to standard of conduct. We all know performance evaluation. So now every 1 year, maybe every company they will have their own set of process for performance evaluations. But most of the companies they perform annual performance reviews where they will see your conduct, where they see your performance, right? They will also verify if there were any deviations from the process during the tenure, right? So this COSO principle one, it's talking about integrity and ethical values as an organization. What are the controls you have implemented to meet that you have right controls to meet integrity and ethical values, right? Like now I asked during if I'm implementing or if I'm someone doing consulting activity for any of the service organization, I ask them to implement controls around integrity and ethical values. Maybe I'll ask them to write some sort of standard document or employee handbook or code of conduct which should include all the standards, all the policies which must be communicated to all the employees or which must be made available for all the employees, right? I also asked them they should have some sort of process to ensure they address if there were any deviations. They also evaluate the adherence to code of conduct. Now I asked them if I'm doing auditing, I will ask like, do you have any controls in place that you employ integrity and ethical? Well, do you have some standard document that you communicate to all the employees? Or do you have any standard employee handbook or code of conduct that you communicate to all the employees and ask them to read and attest at the time of onboarding or at an annual basis? Like I'll ask different controls to see if the company has right controls in place to confirm that they have controls in place to meet the commitment to integrity and ethical values. Let's see few of the controls, right? Let's understand the controls which help the organizations to meet COSO principle one. So mission, vision, and value statements have been developed by management and are posted on the company intranet portal. This is one of the example of control which helps one of the control. This is not the only control. The company may have multiple controls implemented to meet each of the criteria, right? Now, for a company, consider company A, I asked what are the controls you have implemented to meet the commitment of integrity and ethical values, right? So now they answered me, we have mission, vision, and value statements have been developed by management and are posted on company's intranet portal. which is fine. They obviously every employee must know what is the mission, vision, and value statements of the organization, so that they know what are the values they need to maintain when they are working with the organization, right? So an employee handbook outlining standards of conduct is published and made available to employees. Now the company built some document called employee handbook where they include all the policies outlining various rules and regulations, or what different controls, various policies defined within the policy, and at least published in the SharePoint or within some sort of portal where which is accessible by all the employees, which is also completely fine to address the integrity and ethical values. Now it's not, if you just keep post it in some portal and ask the employees to go and read it, I don't think any of the employee will read it, right? There should be some sort of additional process in place where they need to ensure that the handbook is read and signed by each and every employee. So they have added one more control which requires that all the employees or all the new hires at the on time of onboarding, they must read the handbook and attest or sign the handbook, right? So that is the reason they have one additional control. Upon hire, employees are required to review and attest to compliance with the employee handbook. Now, whenever there was a new hire, they will ask, they will give the handbook either through some sort of online training portal, or they will give offline copy of handbook. They will ask them to read and attest the or sign on the handbook, right? So maybe sometimes there might be, they might have update the handbook, or they may revise the handbook. So whenever there is any revision, they have to communicate the latest handbook to all the employees, or they can also get the handbook reviewed and attested by all the employees at least annually or periodically. So upon onboarding, contractors are required to sign the contractor handbook outlining standards. Now, assume if you are an organization who also hires contractors, then you should have, since the same employee handbook won't be applicable for contractors, you should have a separate contractor handbook where you need to give to all the contractors and ask them to read and attest at the time of onboarding and periodical basis. So if annually employee goals are described and documented, employees are evaluated based upon progress towards meeting goals and discuss these goals with managers. Job training identified for the employees is tracked on an ongoing basis. Now, this is performance reviews to see if there were any deviations, if the employee, what is the performance, like if there were any deviations from the standards of conduct. So they will have, the rating levels. I think most of the people already know about performance evaluation, right? So now all these together, all these controls helps the organizations to meet the criterion COSO principle 1 under security for CC1, COSO principle 1. Now they have controls in place to meet the COSO principle 1. Now similarly, you need to understand all these components, right? Under CC1, you have CC 1.1 to 1.5, which means COSO principle 1, COSO principle 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you need to have right controls in place to address each of the COSO principle under control environment. Similarly, now each of the criterion is again classified, or which is subdivided into multiple components or principles under CC2, 3, 4 until CC9. You can see here CC1 is classified as CC 1.1 to 1.5. Not classified, I would say it includes different criterions or principles of CC1 to 1.5, 1.1 to 1.5. Similarly, it CC2 includes CC 2.1 to 2.3. The same way, every criteria includes different criteria, some principles. But remember, from CC1 to CC5, which includes overall 17 COSO principles. If you see here, you'll have almost 17 from here to which are related to COSO. Okay, we'll have a dedicated session. There is something that I can show you. So this is the document, how this is something we have prepared internally. So if you see here, so I classified all the controls which comes under CC is related to security. Now security has 9 criteria from CC 1 to 9. Now each criteria you have, which includes CC 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. Now within this, you have point of focus provided by ACP. So you have all the point of focus, right? So I have added all these documents. So we can go walk through, about few of the other criteria. Maybe we need a dedicated session because it's a very lengthy process. There is a lot of components that we need to discuss. So we'll have a dedicated session, all different. So try to understand this. Maybe I'll post this video, or I'll share this document to, I have your email IDs. I'll share this document, or I'll post this video in YouTube or in our LinkedIn page. Now let's understand key standards. Now, whenever we do audits, not like everyone do perform audit however they want. They need to understand what are the standards they must be following when they are performing any SOC engagements, right? Now, ASCP introduced standards which are referred as statements on standards for attestation engagements, SSAE, right? So the AACPA attestation standards provide the framework for certified public accountants to perform various types of attestation engagement. These engagements involve issuing reports on subject matter or assertions made by others, typically related to financial or operational controls. The main standards to focus on include SSAE 16, SSAE 18, SSAE 21. Now, the first one was SSAE 16. The Before, earlier it was only having attestations on internal controls over financial reporting. Later on they introduced trust service categories, where they introduced SOC 2 engagements, right? Now earlier the standard which they introduced is SSAE 16. Later on it was superseded by SSAE 18 and then SSAE 21. Now SSAE 16 is related to internal controls over financial reporting, whereas SSA 18, it's pretty much operational controls related to fire trust service categories, or SSA again superseded in 2021. It talks about assertions as well. Now let's understand detail. Focused on service organization control reports, particularly for SOC 1 engagements, assessing the internal controls relevant to financial reporting. Now, this is superseded by SSAE 18 in 2017, which introduced more rigorous requirements for service organizations, enhancing transparency and quality, right? So SSAE 18 expanded upon SSAE 16, providing updated guidance on how service organization must report on their internal controls, strengthens the auditor's role in risk assessment, monitoring, and reporting to ensure reliable and secure controls. Affects So now this SSAE 18 is applicable for SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 reports, whereas in SOC 1 reports, they SSAE 16 helps they understand, since this is only specifically built for SOC 1 engagement. Even though SSAE 18 was introduced, you can always take reference of SSAE 16 for SOC 1 engagements alone. Now SSAE 21 issued in 2020, SSAE 21 clarifies and updates procedures for examination, review, and agreed upon procedures under attestation engagements. Now helps auditor understand how to apply attestation standards in various scenarios, ensuring clarity in the reporting. Now, how exactly this standards helps, right? Now, whenever auditor, there will be various procedures from planning to reporting. You'll be involved in various activities, right? You need to understand what kind of mindset you should be having, what are the approaches you should have, or what are the different options you have when performing different type of service auditor or system organization control engagements, right? As a service auditor, you should have the right approach when you are performing different type of SOC engagements. Now, these standards will help you or guide you to see what must be, how exactly, what are the different standards or what are the different action items that you need to perform when you conduct any SOC engagement, from planning to reporting process, from from how right after, from signing letter of engagement till issuing the final report to the service organization. Now you have attestation standards 80-100, 80-200, and 80-300. Now this talks about 80-100. General principles establishes the foundation for all attestation engagements, outlining the conceptual framework for performing these engagements. These are explicitly, built for SOC engagements, right? SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 engagements. Whereas these are attestation standards, best practice attestation standards, which can be used for different attestations, not just for SOC engagements, right? Establishes the foundation for all attestation engagements, outlining the conceptual framework for performing these engagements, guides CPAs on defining objectives, evaluating risks, and reporting the results in a consistent manner. Now focus on how to perform examination, whether the auditor provides reasonable assurance that the subject matter conforms to specified criteria, involves detailed procedures and comprehensive evaluation of the subject matter. Whereas, 80-300 pretty much focus on quality point of view, how the quality, of UQCR should be maintained, guides auditor on performing reviews, offering a moderate level of assurance based on limited procedures, focuses on obtaining enough evidence to conclude whether the subject matter is presented fairly in accordance with the criteria. So, those who, most of the people who involve in testing hardly they understand, because we never, come across these standards or, attestation standards during our audit procedures. But most of the time we'll be, at a junior level, people from, 1 to 5, 7, sometimes 10 years of experience. Hardly you will be part of, control testing, you'll be part of walkthroughs. You may also, draft reports, but it is also important that as you get more experience, you need to understand what are these attestation standards, right? Now I see, ISAE standards, then SSAE. If you wanted to, get more understanding on this, maybe you can try to go to ACP official website. Then you can search for attestation standards for SOC engagements. You will find some documents out there if you have membership, right? Now, if you're some service organization where you also have sub-service organizations comes under scope. Now there is a process. You should have a right approach whenever you are performing SOC engagements. There are two different approaches when you are dealing with sub-service organization, right? Whether it is your choice whether you wanted to include sub-service organizations under scope, or whether you don't have whether you don't want to include sub-service organization under scope. Now you have two approaches. One is, so when dealing with sub-service organization, the terms carve out and inclusive refers to different approaches for reporting the activities and controls of service organizations, sub-service organizations in relation to a primary service organization. Here is what these terms mean. Now you need to understand what is this carve out and inclusive. Now you are a service organization. Now you are going for a SOC attestation, right? Now, if you are already taking services from some other service organization, then the organization where you are the service organization obtaining services is referred as sub-service organization. Now, if it is impacting your, SOC report, now you should decide whether you need to include the audit procedures for the sub-service organization or not. Now, understanding having the, two different options here, two different approaches. If you wanted to include sub-service organization as a part of audit, now you consider it as inclusive approach. If you wanted to include sub-service organization and in scope, if you wanted to exclude sub-service organization from scope, then you refer it as carve out, right? If you don't want to, perform any audit procedures for sub-service organization, you can refer it as carve out method or approach. If you want to include subservice organization as a part of audit, now you refer it as inclusive. So when dealing with subservice organizations, the terms carve out and inclusive refer to different approaches for reporting the activities and controls of subservice organizations in relation to the primary service organizations. Now, carve-out. In carve-out approach, the controls of the subservice organization are excluded from the scope of the service organization report. So we are not going to perform any kind of examination or audit procedure for subservice organization. We will consider those. We can maybe it completely the responsibility is completely held by subservice organization. Service organization is not going to give any sort of assurance on the subservice organization in the carve-out approach. Whereas in inclusive approach, you can include subservice organization also under scope, and the auditor will be performing audit procedures for subservice organization as well. So in the inclusive approach, the controls of the subservice organization are included in the scope of the primary service organization's report. The primary service organization includes the subservice organization controls within its own SOC report. The report will be explicitly state that the subservice organization controls are part of the overall system being reported on, and these controls are subject to audit and evaluation. So whenever you are going with inclusive approach, you clearly define that subservice organization controls have been included in scope and also audited at the time of SOC 2 examination. Now you clearly define within your SOC report, you also include the tests and results of the subservice organization controls within the SOC report if you are going with inclusive approach. But most of the time, whatever the engagements I have performed, most of the time we only go with carve out method where we won't be include sub-service organizations under scope, right? So SOC audit process and roadmap. Now where we start, assume if you are a service organization who are planning for SOC reporting in the coming future, generally it is recommended that you start with gap assessment to understand what is your maturity level, what are the different, if you have any gaps to address, SOC criteria. So once after gap assessment, maybe you can do, if you have someone internally, you can do implementation with your own team, or you can approach some sort of company, consulting company, or firm where they help you to implement, or who you advisory services where they help you to implement right controls in place to meet the SOC criterias, right? Or if you find any deviations, or you can also do or implementation or remediation to ensure that the service organization have right controls in place to meet all the SOC criteria. Once if you confirm, or once if you feel confident that the service organization has right controls designed effectively to meet the SOC criteria, then you can go for type 1 engagement. Type 1 attestation, so which takes almost 3 months, maybe start, maybe few companies they will perform it for within 1 month, and maybe few companies they do high level of audit project, they take enough time, they do high quality audits, and they make spend enough time like 2 to 3 months to complete the type 1 engagement. Now once if you are type 1 attested, now you have to ensure the controls are operating effectively for the next 6 months or 1 year before you are planning for type 2 engagement. Now in type 1, it's a point in time where the auditor will perform audit for a specific point in time. Whereas in type 2, the auditor, the management will decide a specific examination period or audit period where the auditor will do independent review and examination of all the in-scope controls which are related to SOC criteria. They will see the suitability of design and operative effectiveness of the controls to meet the SOC criteria for a specific duration of 6 months to 12 months. Right now, once if you get SOC 2 type 2 attestation or SOC 1 type 2 attestation, from next year onwards, you don't have to go through gap assessment or remediation or type 1 assessments again. The only responsibilities to whatever the controls you have implemented to help to get SOC 2 type 2 attestation or SOC 1 type 2 attestation, you need to ensure those controls are consistently operated or operated effectively for the next 1 year, and you can directly go for type 2 attestation from the second year onward. So only during first year you have to go through this, cycle of gap assessment, remediation, type 1 and type 2. And from second year onwards, it is a recurrence where you directly go for type 2. Type 2. So this is from, roadmap from SOC 2 compliance point of view, how you, what is the, approach, like where to start and where to end if you wanted to in the SOC journey, if you wanted to get SOC attestation. But from auditing point of view, if you wanted to see as an auditor how we start and how we end, we have different phases which starts from planning, then field work, reporting, and if there are any gaps, maybe some you can consider as follow-up, right? So now planning starts from engagement letter. Once the service organization signs once service organization signs engagement letter or letter of engagement with the service auditor, from there they can start the engagement where they will have some sort of planning. They do perform interviews to understand your scope. They will also see what are the in-scope controls. So once if they decide they understand the scope, they will start have a kickoff meeting where they both the teams collaborative. They understand what is the scope. They finalize the scope of the service organization for the specific engagement. Then they also decide what is the in scope criterias, what is the audit period or reporting period, different applications in scope. They discuss, with the key objectives of the overall engagements. Also, we generally discuss, key milestones that we are going to, keep for the engagement so that we deliver the report in a timely manner. In general, engagement takes for a period of 2 to 4 months, depends upon the complexity of the overall project, right? So we issue the request list. Also, we will also give the walkthrough list. What are the different walkthroughs that we are going to conduct with the point of contacts or control owners? So we will issue interview list as well as the request list. For interview list, you need to give provide us the right point of contact so that we can schedule walkthroughs with those people. Also, we will also provide request list where we will ask for different documentation, and the point of contacts or your internal team will provide all the relevant documents required or requested within the DRL or request list. So we'll start obtaining the documentation. We'll start our, review process. We will also conduct walkthroughs. So it's an ongoing process, right? The uh, service or service organization simultaneously they provide documentation. Simultaneously, we will also perform walkthroughs. Also, we will also start doing reviewing the initial documentation like policies, populations, and all. Like once if we complete walkthroughs or at the time of walkthroughs, we will do our test of design. We'll understand your process. We'll do perform test of design. We'll do test of design documentation in the backend. Now, once if walkthroughs are completed, once if we receive all the populations, we'll send the populations, we'll select the samples from the population using sampling methodology, and we'll release the samples to the control owners or point of contacts. Now they will start uploading, the relevant evidence for each of the sample. And once if we have the final evidence, we will review all the evidence for all the in-scope controls, and we will do relevant required documentation from both design point of view and operative effectiveness point of view. And once if we are good with the control testing, maybe we might have certain follows. We'll have weekly status calls, or we will have a daily connects to ensure we are following upon all the evidence pending, or if we need any further clarification about the or service organization process. Now the objective is to complete the control testing from both test of design and operative effectiveness point. If it is a type 1 engagement, we are going to just perform test of design, whereas if it is type 2 engagement, we will perform both test of design and operative effectiveness for all the in-scope controls, right? Once if we are done with the control testing, it is very important that we should have an expert team where they perform review to ensure that we maintain quality across the engagement. All the controls are tested appropriately with high level of standards. Now that quality should be maintained whenever we are performing audit procedures, right? So we have a dedicated team, or every company they should have a dedicated team who performs that quality check, right, which comes under QA review. Now, once if the control testing is reviewed, now we'll have a draft report where we will include overall our testing procedures, audit procedures within the report. Now, the report will also undergo QA. Now, we need to ensure that the report is appropriate, is addressing all the controls appropriately, right? So now, once if the report is reviewed, then we'll send it to the client. So which comes under reporting. Until here, QA review. So until here, it is considered planning. Now, from walkthrough, obtaining artifacts is an ongoing process, starts from planning to field work. Now, in field work, you'll get obtaining artifacts, walkthroughs, control testing, and QA review. Once if you start reporting, preparing draft report and issuing the report to the client or service organization, now it is referred as reporting. Now, if there are anything that we need to discuss, it will come under follow up right after report. Maybe management response for deviations noted and all. Okay. So this is overall life cycle, but yeah, this is also a lengthy process. It all comes about, there is two different elements that we need to understand. If you are someone looking for project management point of view, project management SME, then you need to understand where exactly what are the pre-engagement activities that you are going to conduct for any specific service organization, and post engagement, like once if you issue the final report, what are the different action items, or what are the different activities that as a organization it include, which comes under project management. If you specifically talk about only the engagement part, it starts from engagement letter and it ends with the final issue of final report to the client. Now you need to understand from both the point of view. If you are someone looking to enhance your skill only on SOC reporting process, then you have to understand where it starts and where it ends from the reporting process point of view. But if you wanted to learn at a manager level, if you wanted to become uh, at a high level where you get the projects, you deal the end-to-end projects, then you need to understand the project management of the SOC reporting process, right? So report structure. Once if we are done with draft report, now you should have an understanding what are the different you know what are the different information, what is the different information that you need to include. You need to understand what are the different components that you need to include in the SOC report, right? Now ACPA, they themselves have provided some draft report where you can always use it as a reference to report whatever the audit process you conduct for any service organization. You can document in a specific draft report which has a certain format. So every organization, a service or auditing firm, they'll be having a template where which includes 4 sections or 5 sections. Generally, most of the SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports either starts with assertions of service organization management in section 1, and in section 2 you have service auditor's opinion, description of service organization system, controls, test of controls, and results. Now these are the 4 sections. Now there is one other section referred as management response. Now, whenever you find any deviations as a part of control testing, those will be, included in section 4. Now, if the management wanted to respond, like if they wanted to do some sort of, remediation and address those, they can do, and they can provide their feedback, the response in section 5, which is referred as management response. Okay. Now, few companies, they have service auditors, or most of the companies, they will have service auditors opinion in the section 1 and assertions of service organization management in section 2, which is completely fine as long as you have all these sections defined, which is completely fine. But most of the time, 99%, almost all the reports what I've seen, description of service organization system and controls, test results and test of controls and results are included in section 3 and section 4 of the reports. Now these are interchanged few sometimes, but most of the time service auditor's opinion comes in the first place and assertions of service organization management comes in the second place. Now, what is the difference between SOC 1, SOC 2 and SOC 3 report? Right now we know that SOC 3 report can be issued uh, for marketing purpose, where the company can publish in their company's portal directly. Because if you see section 3, description of service organization system, controls, test of controls and results, right? So now these both sections include certain sensitive information related to the company system, their processes, their policies, their infrastructure, their components, right? Now it is not necessary that you provide that information to your um, clients when you're doing marketing. It is not necessary, right? It is, you need to provide assurance to only the existing customers, only the existing user of. You don't have to publish it in your website with all the sensitive information. It is not necessary. To address this, if you wanted to do some sort of marketing where you wanted to share your SOC 2 type 2 report, so instead you can issue your SOC 3. If you wanted to publish your SOC report, you can opt for SOC 3 report, where they will exclude this specific two sections, section 3 and section 4. They will include only section 1 and section 2, and they will issue a different report referred as SOC 3 report, which can be used for marketing purpose, where you can publish the report in your website directly, or you can share it across your stakeholders. Now, what is this engagement quality control reviews? Now, it is very important that you maintain that standard, you maintain that quality across the reporting process, right from planning till issuing the final report to the use service organization. Right now, there is some standard process that ACP, as per standards, it is very important that you should have an engagement quality control review process employed within the service auditing firm, where each and every audit provision must be reviewed by a quality team who have expertise and experience to verify or examine the quality of the process, right? And EQCR is an independent review, so it is very important again that whoever performs this engagement quality control review, they should not be part of any of the audit procedure. They should not be part of testing controls. They should not be part of walkthroughs. They perform review completely independently. Okay, so an EQCR is an independent review of an audit engagement performed by a qualified individual, typically someone with more experience or higher authority than the engagement team. Assume I'm having 10 years of experience. Most of the time, the engagement quality control team, they will be having some more experience of 15 to 20 years of experience. And they should also have expertise in testing a specific environment. If you're performing engagement for a cloud environment, the person should be having expertise and experience in cloud engagements, right? So the person should be having experience, more experience than the engagement. The engagement team is someone who involves in performing the overall audit procedures, where the control testing, whereas EQCR team, they won't be part of these walkthroughs and control testing. They independently just review the controls and the reports completed by the engagement team. Okay, so the purpose of the EQCR is to evaluate the quality of the audit and ensure that it complies with the relevant auditing standards, regulations, and professional judgment required for the engagement. Right. So definitely, judgment, there is a little bit, difference between judgment of one person to other person. But as long as you are following the standard, then there is no issue. It is very important that you maintain that quality from the standards point of view, right? Uh, there can be slight difference from the judgment point of view, which is completely fine. Now, The EQCR team, engagement quality control team, they ensure that you meet all the standards whenever you are performing the auditing or whenever you are testing or performing audit procedures for testing the controls. For SOC audits, an EQCR typically involves reviewing the overall approach and execution of the audit to ensure it meets the necessary standards, assessing whether the audit team appropriately considered key areas of risk and whether sufficient evidence has been gathered to support audit conclusions, verifying that any significant findings, especially those related to controls, have been properly documented and addressed. Now, it is also very important that you maintain, proper standard documentation procedures, right? So I see, the was not maintained properly for few of the engagements with few of the companies, right? But it is very important that you maintain the standard documentation across all the engagements, whichever the SOC reports issued by the service audit firm, right? You need to maintain the standard documentation. Now, this QC process is to ensure you maintain that quality across the engagement, right from planning, right from signing engagement letter till issuing the final report. Okay, they are going to do independent review at an overall engagement from starting letter of engagement till issuing the final report to the service organization. Now, how do we know? So there is some other process called peer reviews. Now, we are not sure, there are different service auditing firms out there. We don't know whether the firms are following proper standards in in their audit procedures, right? So if they are issuing hundreds of SOC reports, who knows that they are, you know, maintaining that standards, AECPA standards for all the engagements. How do we get to know about that? Right? So how do at least AACPA ensure that whichever the firms perform the SOC engagement, they maintain all the standards, right? So AACPA also introduced some process called peer reviews. To maintain the standards across all the SOC reports, they have introduced some process called peer reviews, right? What is this peer review? Each and every service auditing firm, they must undergo peer reviews. So what is this peer review? There is listed firms, CPA firms, who are eligible to perform peer reviews. If you go to ACPA portal, if you search for, you can get a list of firms who can perform peer reviews. Now, what is this peer review? As a service auditor, as a service auditing firm, we should appoint some other firm to perform peer review. They will review one engagement independently to see what kind of standards we are maintaining, whether we are having right auditing policies in place, and whether we are practicing all those policies, auditing policies effectively across all the engagements. Since they can't perform, examination of all the engagements, this peer review process includes where they will do independent review and examination for one report to see the kind of practice, the kind of standards we are maintaining as a service auditing firm, right? A peer review is a process where one accounting firm reviews the work of another firm to ensure that it meets professional standards. This review is part of a quality control program, and its goal is to maintain and improve the quality of audit services provided to clients, right? So now this peer review process is also introduced by ACPA to ensure that professional standards are maintained across all the service auditing firms. Now, for SOC audits, a peer review generally includes an independent review of audit process and the firm's compliance with AECPA standards, ensuring that the firm adheres to the applicable professional standards and industry-specific regulations in conducting SOC audits. Right? Identifying areas for improvement in audit practices, documentation, and reporting. Peer reviews are mandatory for firms that perform audits, including SOC audits under AECPA rules. The process helps to maintain public trust and assure stakeholders that audit process was rigorous, thorough, and compliant with professional standards. It is very important that if you are someone looking for uh, a consulting firm or service or auditing firm who performs SOC engagement, it is very important that you appoint right service auditor. You need to, I believe, you should confirm with them whether they are undergoing peer reviews, whether they have quality control EQCR team to perform that quality checks. It is not important to, just it is, so most of the companies they, look for a green report. It is not, it is very important that you appoint right auditor, and it is also very important you give enough time to ensure that right audit procedures are performed to give you the quality report. Okay, so appointing the right auditor with expertise, experience, and having all standards followed, practiced within the service auditing firm is very important, right? Okay. Now, once if we issue the report, now what is the validity of the report? Is it like, can this report be used for rest of the life or rest of the years? No. Now this report is only valid for 1 year. Assume I provide SOC 2 type 2 report for any specific organization. It means the report is only valid for next 12 months. Now, if you wanted to market, if you wanted to publish in your website, saying that I'm SOC 2 type 2 compliant, or I'm SOC 2 type 2 attested, or SOC 1 type 2, or SOC, SOC for cybersecurity, or SOC for supply chain management, you can promote that logo of ACPA SOC 2 attested or SOC 2 compliant only for 12 months. Once if this 12 months is done, you should remove the logo from your website. You no longer can use your SOC logo, ACPA SOC logo in your website once if the validation is complete. Okay. Now, validity of SOC reports. SOC 1, SOC 2 type 2 reports are typically valid for 12 months from the period's end date, report period's end date. SOC 3 reports follows the same validity period as SOC 2 type 2 since they are derived from them. After 12 months, organizations are expected to undergo a new audit to maintain compliance. So if then, as long as the 12 months is completed, you have to go for another audit for the current year, right? So I see most of the companies, they plan to go for, another audit before the 12 months ends. Assume we issued SOC 2 type 2 report in December 2024, it expires in 2025 December, right? So they plan to go for next audit somewhere in September or October. They will start, the planning process in October or November itself, and they will get the new report by February 2026 for 2025. Okay, so logo usage. The ASAPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, provides official sales logos for organizations with a valid SOC 2 or SOC 3 report. The SOC logo can be used for marketing purposes, but only as long as the report remains valid. Organization must represent their SOC compliance status or modify the SOC logo, right? So that's it, guys. So if you wanted to connect with us, either you can call me over 830-994-3648, or you can visit our website sciaglobal.com, or you can drop an email to mallikarjuna@sciaglobal.com. If you wanted to visit our office in person, you can always come to Block A, third floor, Victory Plaza, Tolichoki, Hyderabad. Thank you. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. Maybe if you have any questions, you can drop your questions and I'll try to answer. What is the validity of SOC 1 or to type 1 report. See, since SOC type 1 reports are not provided for assurance, these are just to show your clients that you are in process to get SOC 2 or SOC 1 type 2 complaint or SOC 2 type 2 complaint. But this type 1 reports are not intended to provide any assurance, since there is no operative effectiveness tested as a part of your engagement. How the test of design will be performed? Could you please help clarifying the particular topic? Yeah, Jayant. So test of design, you just understand the process. You have once if you have a good understanding about the process, you need to see whether the control is implemented appropriately to meet the intended risk. Assume I'll just give an example. So physical and environmental controls, right? So if I talk about physical and environmental controls, especially CC footage, like CC cameras. Let's talk about CC cameras. Now, I asked when I'm performing audit, I asked the organization, like service organization point of contact, do you have CC cameras in place? They answered yes, absolutely. So I asked them, can you show me? I went to their on-site audit where I asked them, can you show me what are the different areas they have fixed CC cameras? Now I showed the CC cameras were fixed in entrance, exits, and sensitive areas of the organization. Now, from design point of view, it is fine. They are maintaining, the storage for 6 months or 1 year. They're maintaining the record of storage for 1 year, right? Now I have seen, there is a configuration that where they store the record, whatever the, CC cameras capture, they maintain that storage for 1 year. I see that configuration. Right? By saying all this, I confirm that design, okay, they have CC cameras in place. And so they record, whatever the, footage they covered, they record it for, and they maintain the backup for next 1 year. Now, as a part of operative effectiveness, I asked them, can you show me, you are telling me that, you maintain the backup for 1 year. Now, can you show me for 25 specific days? From January to December, I select 25 days and I ask them to, can you show me, the recording of 25 days? No, they fail to provide, the records, which is the gap of test of operative effectiveness. Since they have CC cameras in place, since they have the right configurations to, maintain backup of the CC footage, from design point of view, they are good, but from operative and effectiveness point of view, they might not have that process implemented before 1 year. So we are considering the gap is from operating effectiveness point of view, but not the design. So design, you just have to see if the control is implemented effectively to address the intended risk or to address the risk appropriately or effectively. Any other questions? How the report looks like? I can't show you any reports. So generally, maybe I can show you, maybe you can, um, we'll have a different session on a control testing point of view and reporting point of view, where I'll try to show you, the how draft report looks like. I'll create some, random draft report. I will present it to you, maybe in the next module. This is more of, giving general introductions to SOC to create some awareness. Maybe few people are completely new to the cybersecurity space or IT assurance space. I just wanted to give some sort of understanding. Maybe in next module for control testing, we'll do control testing for different areas, like controls related to GRC, controls related to their IT process, privacy and all. Then we'll also walk you through the draft report, how to prepare the draft report. I have the course of principles. Yes, absolutely. Can we get a copy of point of focus mapped with course of principles and example controls, please, for self-study? Sorry, maybe I can't, but I can, walk you through the, overall control, that mapping in next session, module 2. Okay. In module 2, majorly we cover the control, the component, 5 trust service categories and components, the criteria, point of focus and controls. We'll walk you through, we'll spend at least, 1 to 2 hours. I have to see my schedule. So yeah, in next session, definitely we'll go through that 5 trust service categories, control testing, test of design, test of operative effectiveness, preparing draft reports and all. Okay. If at all possible, everyone please follow SCIA Global in LinkedIn. I'll continue to post my webinar updates in my SCA Global page. So if you want, just feel free to follow so that you'll get all the updates. Any other questions, guys? Okay, great. If you wanted to reach out to me, either you can call me to my phone or you can drop me an email. I personally avoid to talk much on calls. You can drop me an email. I'll come back to you. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.